All right, so we are live. This is our first video ever, so I'm going to add Derek into this as well. Thank you everybody for joining. Like I said, this is our first live stream for Tarvent, so if we run into any bumps along the way, we apologize, but that's just kind of how it goes. So with that, want to introduce myself so you kind of know who I am and what we're about and what we're talking about today and all that good stuff. So my name is Jason Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of Tarvent. Started Tarvent, or actually started the initial company back in 1997. And from there, we started as a custom development company and then kind of took that into email marketing after working with several agencies that were having us do a lot of development and asked us to come up with an email marketing platform that would be a lot less expensive than the platform they were using at the time. Won't name names, but anyway, so we decided we're going to build that. The challenge that we had was that they wanted to build something that competed against that other platform, and they were dealing with large customers. So we went from not having anything to building more of an enterprise level email marketing platform. So that was fun. It was a lot of work, and we did it in a very, very short period of time. But we got that going, and that is kind of the start of where we ended up today. So just to give you a little bit of background on myself, and then we're going to talk to Derek and let Derek give you a background on him. But I started out in technology a long time ago. We'll just say that. So I have a little bit of years of history in the technical world. And I started out kind of as an accident. I was in a really, really struggling spot financially with my family. I just gotten out of the Marine Corps and moved to the Bay Area. And so, yeah, I was kind of hurting, but I was selling and tried to get a sale with HP. And HP was going to buy these thermal printers that we were selling that did barcodes and stuff. And they said, well, we'll buy them. And it would have been the biggest sale in company history. But they said the one caveat is that we had to have this little piece of software that would generate serial numbers that would drive the printers and generate these serial numbers. And it was for an asset management system that they had for their HP campus out in the valley, or out in the Bay Area. Well, we didn't have any programmers at our company, and I was desperate to make the sale because I needed to make money. So luckily I had a weekend, and I thought, well, I don't have money to go buy books, but I do know there's this thing called QBasic in DOS. And I know if you hit QBasic /?, you can get some help on it. Well, that's how I learned how to program. And so I built the first program, and I ended up making the sale, largest sale in company history. And my boss said, you know what? You're now going to be a programmer. We can make way more money with that. And so I started programming, taught myself how to code, and just kind of went from there. So I do that with pretty much everything that I learn. I tend to teach myself because I can learn kind of quick. But that's kind of a background on me. And then I've been in various companies, very small companies, very large companies. I've done projects directly with Microsoft and Apple and Palo Alto Research and Xerox, Motorola. I mean, tons and tons of companies out in the Bay Area. Moved out to the Midwest in Minnesota and started doing some more programming out there. And now we're in Colorado. So love the state. And it's been a great move, but that's kind of my background on where I started. So with that, Derek, who is much younger than I, doesn't have as much history to go off of as I do. But Derek, welcome to the stream. And why don't you give it a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, how's it going? So I'm Derek, one of the co-founders of Tarvent. So like Jason said, I don't have as big of a history, but how my history kind of started is I wanted to get into programming. So I didn't know what part of programming I wanted to get into. I just knew that I liked math. I liked stuff that made sense. I liked having an answer to everything. So programming is just kind of where I fit in. And so I was given an opportunity to kind of get my feet wet in front-end development, just building out a report. So it was a very basic project up front, but it was basically just build out a report, use whatever language you want, and we just needed to look good and perform well. So that's kind of what got me started into front end development. And then I picked AngularJS as a framework. So that's kind of where my specialty is in Angular and just the front end world. So yeah, that's how my programming experience or just my programming career got started, was building that simple report. And from there on, I just wanted to find out how I can do my job better, what things I can implement to make design consistent, and just go from there. So that's how I got started. And then the opportunity came up with Tarvent a few years ago now. So it's been a little bit. So I came onto the Tarvent team as a co-founder and helped build out the front end of the application. So everything you see and do with Tarvent, that's kind of where my specialty is within the company. So I built out that front end, and that's what my main role is. And then also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but all the support requests, it's usually me answering those questions. So please be nice. But yeah, so I do a lot of front end development, do a lot with supporting you guys to help you guys have the best experience possible within Tarvent. And yeah, that's kind of my background. And outside of Tarvent stuff, I mean, I like to ski, like to play soccer. Training for the Colorado Marathon that's coming up in a month. So that's quote unquote fun. I don't like running. I just like to do hard things. So that's the next hard thing I'm doing. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me and how I got started.
I was going to say, yeah, I didn't say much about my personal stuff, but I did want to make sure that we talk about some of the personal things too, because, we are humans. We do things outside of work. I tend to like working with my hands. So I ski, snowboard, but I also I do woodworking. I like doing things with metal. I like working on cars. I used to race motorcycles. I'm not a person that says no to opportunities. So I tend to have a lot of different interests. So there's a lot that we could talk about with people other than just Tarvent. Tarvent is our business passion. But there are other passions that we have as well. The other thing, the inspiration behind Tarvent, I kind of wanted to talk about that so you kind of understand why Tarvent even was built. So like I said earlier, Tarvent, first we had another company called IXFactor. IXFactor is actually still around. It's the parent company of Tarvent. But IXFactor, with them, we built a product called ActiveCampaign. And that was the email marketing platform that a lot of customers use that were doing custom development with us. So we didn't make ActiveCampaign available for everybody. We just made it available for customers that we were doing custom development for because they were all really tight integrations with their external systems into that. Well, as we were doing that for many years, we learned that with the industry, there were some very inexpensive platforms to go with that had some basic features. But then if you want to get into the more elaborate features, the more advanced features like multivariate testing or whatnot, or A/B testing is a more simpler approach of that. But to get into that stuff, it just costs so much money to do. And us being a small business as well, it was just a challenge for us because we couldn't afford those other products either because they were so expensive to get into some of the features that we needed. That's where Tarvent came in. So with Tarvent, we decided that we're going to take what we learned from ActiveCampaign and we're going to build an email marketing platform that is very, very inexpensive to run. It's extremely optimized. And with that, we can make things so small businesses of any size can compete with everybody else out there because they have the same tools available to them. So if you're a small mom pop shop and you're trying to compete with every other enterprise company out there that is making products or services, well, they're going to have a lot larger budget than you might have. And so we wanted Tarvent to be that product that has all of those great features at a price you can afford, and more so at a cost that we can sustain. So that is where Tarvent came in. And so with that, I wanted to jump in because we've been talking a lot here.
Just one thing to add on to the why we felt there was a need to bring Tarvent into the mix is because we used a lot of other tools. I won't name names, but they just didn't make sense. So like when you were navigating across the application, let's say you're in journeys and you wanted to see all the contacts that were in that journey, for example, it didn't make sense to click where you need to click to go to that screen. And then you'd click that screen, it'd completely navigate you away from your journey. So now you're outside your journey and you're like, how do you get back to your journey? So we really saw a gap in the market for a tool that just made sense when it comes to navigating around your marketing tool. And needing when you need to figure out the information, it's just right there in front of you instead of having to click around and scavenger hunt for it. So
yeah, I agree. That's definitely something that's, based on some of the projects I worked on. I worked with one of the guys. He was the UI designer for Visual Basic and then Visual Studio back in the day. And so working with him on some stuff, I learned a lot about user interface design and a lot about psychology and why people do things the way they do it and what they anticipate. So having that background and then getting into what other systems have, it was a struggle. So with that, we'll kind of get into the system and just give you a really quick rundown. This is not a tutorial by any stretch of the imagination. This just is meant to give you an idea of what our system looks like, and to give you some of the basics of what we did. So I'm in dark mode. I like to save my eyes a little bit, but we have light mode, dark mode, and then you can have it based on whatever your system's theme is. So we're going to stay in dark mode just so I don't turn that thing to light mode and blind everybody. So when you're log in, this is the screen you're going to see. Now there's some things up here, and this is a demo account, so please ignore the numbers. But in here, you're going to see some different things, and this is basically pick up where you left off, like it says. We also have our what's new. It's always important for us to let you know what's in there. Now, one of the things I kind of jumped ahead, but one of the things I want to talk about first and foremost is the design or how we built the system. So this system is called a single page application. So in normal websites that you go to, when you visit one page and you go to the next page, then the whole screen refreshes. It's kind of annoying because you go from seeing where you're at to a blank page, and then it'll flash and then it comes up with a new page. So that's how most web applications have been built. Now, way back, Outlook was one of the predominant players in this that built for Outlook.com had built actually this was even before Outlook.com, but they had built a single page application. It was built on some technologies I won't get into, but Outlook had built that out. And then Gmail did. And so what a single page application is you'll notice is as I click around, you're not going to see the screen refresh. You're not going to see everything go blank and then come back. The benefit of that is that you have a consistent UI or user interface that you can see and you never get lost. But then in addition, it makes it a lot faster from a system perspective. So we can make our system a whole lot faster by doing that because the browser doesn't have to draw the entire page each time. So that just kind of gives you a really basic understanding of some of the premise of how we built this application. So with that, like Derek mentioned, when we were looking at other applications, we just found that we got lost. We'd click one area and all of a sudden we're in a completely different area of the system. We had no idea how we got there. We were just clicking on contacts and, or whatever, and it would jump all around. So our system, we decided we're never, ever going to do that. We don't want you to ever be lost. So as you kind of see me navigating around, hopefully you'll kind of get an impression of the importance that we had on that. So in addition to that, so when you log in, like I said, this is your dashboard. You always see the navigation here. The other thing is that people don't want to go out to separate help systems. You want the information. You want it to be intuitive. A lot of when I first started, I was working in manufacturing, and we had to build what I called see it and get it applications. You had to just see it and get it right away because we didn't have time to train people. And some of the people that were using the applications didn't speak English. And the translation barrier was really difficult back then to try to train people. So applications needed to be intuitive. And so with that, we kind of merged everything. We're not perfect. That's our goal, though, is to make everything extremely intuitive if you need to know something, we have these little triangles. We wanted to make sure that they weren't right, in your face and screaming, but you know that they're there, so you can easily go over any of these things and see what it's about. That way you don't have to go to a separate help system to kind of learn what there is. The other thing you'll notice is that we have a very, very consistent UI. So no matter where you're at in the system, everything looks the same. It uses the same fonts, the same coloring, the same styling. Everything is the same throughout. So that is partly mine. And then, like Derek said, he's UI guy. So everything you see here is stuff that he's coded for the design of this. So at Tarvent, we are a small team. So we're a small team, so we wear multiple hats. And so Derek does, like he said, he does UI, and he also gets to deal with support, which is super fun. Actually, it is a lot of fun sometimes. We have a really, really good customer base that they'll even send support tickets just telling us to have a great weekend. I have never experienced that before, but it's pretty cool. So to those people that did that, thank you. To those people that haven't, seriously, come on, send us a get, have a good weekend. We don't mind it. We're people too, and we get stressed out just like everybody else does. So anyway, so back to this. So we'll kind of go through and just kind of see. So if I click on audiences, for example, so we'll get into this later with multiple audiences thing, but I can go into an audience and I can see all of my contacts. You'll see our navigation. We've highlighted in blue where you're at, and then now you're in contacts, so you can see all of your contacts. If I click on a contact, you can see all the information about them. So I've got LastPass enabled, so you'll see the little stuff there. But anyway, so actually that does bring up a good point with LastPass. With our system, you'll never have to remember a password. So we're a passwordless system. So every time you log in, it's going to ask you, or it's going to send you a one-time password that you have to put in. So never, ever have to remember passwords. We also support MFA, multi-form authentication, or they also call it 2FA for two-form authentication. Basically, that just means you have an authenticator app on your phone, and we will log you in with that. It's extremely good for security. And with this, with all the different privacy laws for data, it's extremely important that we have. Plus, with our enterprise customers, we go through security audits, which if you're one of those enterprise customers, we thank you so much for those security audits. Like being at the doctor's office with your pants down for a good 3 months. But, it's fun. It actually has helped us grow. So we definitely appreciate it. But anyway, so as you kind of go through here, we have different things you can do. So if I want to go in and do an import, one of the things that our system is designed to do is, let's see, I got to select a delimiter here. And then I'm going to drag a file in, and we'll just go to the next page. Well, actually, one of the things that people tend to forget, and Derek, I think this is one that you get asked about a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
With the imports.
Yeah. So I get a lot of questions on support on how to import contacts into a group. And this kind of is leading into the next point of what we want to talk about is just, we try to make our system so there's no stopping points. So if you're doing an import and you want to import it into a group and you haven't created that group yet, we wanted to make sure that you don't need to leave the import screen. You don't need to close everything, that you can add that group right within your import screen. So on the screen that Jason's showing right now, you can see how you can type in a group name and add the group right within the screen. So then you can easily import those contacts right into that new group. And so for the people that have asked in support to import into a new group, this is a really easy way to do it without having to close your import screen.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is you realize you need to do a new group, and you don't want to have to go into groups, create a group, and then come back and do your imports. Really annoying. The other thing is, once you're in a group, if you have all of your custom fields, but then you can also add a new data field. And so that way you can add a new custom field during your import process. Because, sometimes you're importing, especially if it's your first time importing, you're going to have to add data fields into our system so we know where to store profile information. And so we just allow you to do that right during the import process. So again, you don't have to back out just to be able to get to that area. So we just want you to kind of get through things as quick as possible. So another thing that we have, I'm just going to go in here to a screen here. We're going to go into, actually, we've got the rules right here. So for a segment, so, you have groups which are static, and then you have segments which are dynamic in the sense that you can put in rules, and we're going to query your entire contact list to get everybody that matches the rules of your segment. Now, in our system, it's a little bit different because we query this real time. So if you send a campaign, you schedule it for a week later. That week later, that's when we're going to run the query on your segment to get everybody at that point in time that matches it. Now, that's just a side note, but the main thing here, and you'll kind of see this throughout, is that we've got the segmentation look, so you can add in rules, and I can add another rule. I can add a rule group, and you can pick your fields, and there's behavioral information that you can go off of. So we have a lot of different things that you could do within your segments. Now, if I go over to journeys, and journeys are like automations. So not like it, they are automation. So within a journey, there's other things I can do. So I can say, okay, I'm going to have a trigger that pulls everybody in as soon as they update the profile. So I can do that. And now I can also filter on that. So when I filter on that, so I could say everybody that updates their profile, but I also want to make sure that the last purchase date is not null. So if they update their profile and this criteria matches, then they'll join the journey. My point of this, though, is that our UI, if you notice that this criteria, this screen looks exactly like our segmentation screen. And that's on purpose. We want it so when you learn one area, you kind of learn a lot of areas all at once. That way we reduce the learning curve and you get familiar with our system really quick. The other thing is our overall editors. So this editor here for a journey, this is how you can click the plus, add things in there. I can also go in here and maybe go to actions, and I can drag a node on or do whatever I want to do. So, or a step. So I can do things in here, but this is my editor. And when I click on a node, then I can come over and I can modify the different information for this. So now if I go into an email, I'll show you what an email looks like. So when I go into an email, now I'm modifying the email or campaign, however you want to refer to it. But I'm modifying a campaign. If you notice, the editor looks exactly the same. Now, when I go to add, there's multiple options in here that weren't in a journey editor because these don't apply to a journey. But for the email, you're going to have these different things, but everything looks exactly the same. So I can go in here, I can change my image, I can do different things with this, and there's a lot of different settings that we have in here. We've designed this so you can kind of explore. This has a lot more in it. If I don't override the main styling, you see a lot more basic. And again, you'll see these triangles that will give you some information about those. So that kind of gives an idea of some of the things that we do within the editor. But
yeah, and just to add on to that consistency part, if you go into any of the areas of Tarvent, I mean, excluding audience, but if you go into templates, campaigns, landing pages, surveys, it's all the same layout. So that you have that left toolbar for your main navigation within the editor. And on that right-hand side, it's all the stuff you can edit for whatever item is selected. So when we designed Tarvent, we really wanted to make sure that the layout looks the same everywhere, just so that you're not having to learn a new screen when you're editing different items within Tarvent. So yeah, just wanted to give that additional insight.
Yeah, and the other thing is we've got Quick Nav. So we call it Quick Nav, but it's just another, this helps you kind of move around quickly. So within a journey, you have a bunch of different emails that you're going to be sending out. And so this just allows you to navigate between those so you don't have to go back to your journey. Pick the other email that's down here and then navigate to that. So, I mean, that works nice. I mean, you can certainly do that, but why do that where when you're in an editor, you can just jump between those different ones? So I'm not going to explain this right. Well, now I kind of have to because we showed it, but basically what Recover does, it's a super cool feature. We run into this with many other applications where you'll be editing something and then all of a sudden something happens in your browser and things don't work right. That's really, really annoying. So it won't work right. You have to go back, you lose all of your edits, and you have to start over. And if you spent an hour and you didn't save, or maybe you just spent the last 15 minutes doing something difficult and it didn't auto save, well, that's a problem. Our system, we don't have that. So in our system, what we do is every time you make a change, we're saving copies locally to your machine. That way, if your internet goes down, your computer crashes, something with the browser happens, you won't lose information. We'll allow you to recover from your local storage within your browser. We'll allow you to recover from there, so you never lose anything that you've been working on. So wasn't planning on going over that, but it showed up. So that's just kind of how it goes. So with that, we kind of talked about the quick nav. The last thing in here that I want to go over, just because I think I'm going a little bit late on time here, but the only other thing I want to go over is our API. So now this is going to be to the little more technical folks, but so we have an API. So that API, just like all of our competitors, you can do different things with it. There's a very distinct difference, though, between us and our competitors when it comes to our API. And that distinct difference is that while our competitors allow you to do a limited functionality with the API, our system, you have access to the same API that runs this entire application. So you have 100% capability that we have within our user interface. So in theory, you can completely replace our front end with your own front end and just use our API to post data to our system. So, and the style API that we have, there's REST APIs, and then there's also GraphQL APIs. There's other standards, but those are the two big standards right now, is REST and GraphQL. So REST APIs are nice because they can be easy to use, but you have a whole lot of entry points. So there's a URL for every function that you want to do. So if you want to create a contact, there's a URL for that. If you want to get a contact, there's a URL for that. So you have a lot of entry points that creates an enormous amount of security risk. Our system with GraphQL, you have one entry point. So it's a single entry point, and you just modify what data you're passing to us, and then our system does it. We're not the first ones to use GraphQL, but we are one of the many that are switching over to GraphQL. Facebook actually invented it, and then it has kind of gone from there. And you've got Shopify, you've got tons of Microsoft products. There are tons of products across the board that use GraphQL because it is really, really easy to use. And instead of REST, where you have a standard response that comes back and maybe you only need one field, but you're going to have to take in all the other additional fields that get passed back, with GraphQL, you can fine tune that and only get the information you want. So it's a really good system to, or really good, a specification to use. And so that's what we built. But cool thing, like I said, is that you get 100%. So that's kind of in a nutshell, who Tarvent is. The next thing I want to go over on what makes us different is our pricing. So our pricing, if you go to our competitors, all of our competitors, we haven't seen anybody that doesn't, but all of our competitors, they have tiered pricing. So tier 1 is usually the cheapest, and then tier 2, 3, and 4. And they basically have what we call gated features. So in tier 1, you're going to get maybe 10 features. In tier 2, you're going to get 15, and then tier 3 is 20, and tier 4 maybe 40 or 50. So, depending on what tier you're on, you will get certain features. So those tiers are typically priced based on how many contacts you have, but then those features are limited. Well, if you want to run surveys and they're in tier 3, but you only need tier 1, but you just need the survey as an additional thing, you're going to have to go all the way up to tier 3. It's really expensive to use surveys. I didn't like that because, again, for small business, it's a really, really difficult thing to afford that additional cost. in addition to that, we've also seen where competitors are moving features up to higher tiers. So they kind of get you in at a lower tier. And then, maybe a year or two later, they all of a sudden decide to move that to a higher tier. Now, a feature that you've been using forever is part of a higher tier. So they may not have increased their cost, but it's increased to you because now you have to pay for that higher tier to use that feature. So our system, a lot different. We have the everything plan. It's just that simple. It's one plan, one price, and you get every feature. So with that, it's solely based off of the number of contacts. So as I increase my contacts, so will the price. So it's pretty much that simple, that you can see, what the price is. In addition to the base price, there is some additional pricing. So as we add in features that cost us more to run, then we're going to have to create add-ons for those. We have one add-on right now. And so what that add-on is transactional email. Some people don't understand what transactional is. Some people refer to transactional as an email API. I'll just go over that really quick just so you know the difference. So transactional email is email that is sent to somebody, typically real time. Like if they place an order, you're going to send out an order confirmation email. So that's based on the user's action that an email is sent, or forgot your password, or many other types of emails that could be sent. Maybe they submit a support ticket and that you want to send them an email saying that they received the support ticket. Those are all examples of transactional email. You can send a transactional email to somebody that is not a contact within your account. So because of that, we need to be able to charge, because it still costs us money to send out those emails. But you could send it to a known contact or to an unknown contact. But that ability to send an email real time from within your own application, that is what a transactional email is, or an email API credit that you might have. So both terms are kind of industry standard terms. Transactional email actually comes from the federal government in the US that dictates what a transactional email is. But that's an additional feature for that. So other than that one add-on feature, that's all you have. So our pricing is super simple, and you get every feature in the system. So I mean, there's, I guess, Derek, have you heard of anything in that, from customers that have asked questions about that?
I've had questions about the email API, but not much around pricing. But one thing I wanted to just some additional insight as to why we decided to do the everything plan is because our main mission as Tarvent is to help small businesses grow. And so we saw that with other competitors, if you do feature gating, for example, like let's say you don't have access to automations or journeys in our system. So as a small business, if you don't have access to those features, you won't really be able to test it out to see how it will impact your business. And so we focused on having an everything plan so that small businesses can use every tool available to help their business grow. We just didn't want to make it so you couldn't access a feature because you're not paying us more money. So at the end of the day, if you win, we win. We like those win-win relationships. And so we believe that feature gating prevents that from happening. And so that played a huge role into why we decided to do the everything plan.
Yeah.
And then, just as you grow, I mean, as your contact list grows, your revenue should as well. And so that's why we wanted to make your contact list the only reason that your price would increase. So
yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, I know one of our competitors, just to get multivariate testing within a journey, that's like $5,000 a month. That's the cheapest plan you can get to have that feature. We include that at no extra cost. So you get that at all of these plans. So if you go down to 500 contacts at $16 a month, you get that multivariate testing within a journey at no additional cost. So there's some huge benefits to that. So other than that, I mean, we talked about a lot about some of the differences between us, but we kind of want to go over some of the other ones just so you understand some of the major benefits that save you money. So first one I want to go over is we kind of talked about it a little bit. I should jump back here. So if I go into audiences here, we allow multiple audiences. Sounds weird. It could sound weird because most of our competitors don't have this concept. So most of our competitors, they have a master list for your account. So you can create lists, and those lists have the contact in there. If you have a contact in 5 different lists, they're going to share the same profile across all those different lists. So their email, their first name, last name, and all of the different information that you capture, it's going to be the same across all those different lists. In our system, it's a lot different. So in our system, you can have multiple audiences. That audience is isolated. The reason you use multiple audiences is so you can isolate unsubscribes. And why you would do that is for 2 different primary reasons. One is if you're running multiple brands. So we have one much larger company that has 8 different brands within their company. If they were to use another competitor product, they're going to have 8 different accounts for 8 different brands, because somebody could be a contact in 2 different brands. Well, if they unsubscribe from one, they're going to end up unsubscribing from everything with our competitors. So you have to run multiple accounts. With our system, you can have an audience per brand. That way, everything is 100% isolated. You could do all of your branding separate per audience. All of your campaigns and journeys and everything would be isolated per audience, but it's all within a single account. So that way, when somebody unsubscribes, they only unsubscribe from that brand. They're not unsubscribing from everything. So that is one way. That is a major benefit of using us versus somebody else, because you can just use economies of scale. Obviously, per contact, that cost is going to go down as your number of contacts go up. Well, if you're using our competitors and you have a whole bunch of accounts at 500, 500 contacts per account, you're paying the most that you could pay per contact. In our system, group them all into a single account. So branding is one. And then within one company, like in this demo account, we have customers and we have vendors. So vendors are supplying materials and whatnot. So those vendors could also be customers. They could buy an end product that was made by Breckworks, or they could just be the vendor. So they can unsubscribe as a customer, but still continue as a vendor. So those are kind of the main reasons you would do it, is to isolate your unsubscribes. Then another thing in regards to that is, if we come down here to domains, you can have several different domains. So in this area, all these domains are for is sending. So you can send an email from whatever at, in this case, maybe email.breckworks.com or email1@breckworks or whatever. So for you, if you're running multiple brands, well, you can set up all your different domains for all of your different brands, all within a single account. Makes it really, really easy. So last thing in here, I'm going to go over is on the data fields. So jump over to here so you can kind of see. And in this particular one, let's see. So we've got email as the primary key. That's how most systems work. The unique identifier is the email address. Well, if you're running a loyalty program, you might allow a customer to have multiple loyalty IDs within your program. So if you have that, or credit card companies that have, I might have 2 Visa credit cards through the same company and I use them for different things. Well, now my email address is the same, but my account is different. So within Tarvent, you can actually support that. So you can support having something other than the email address be your unique key. Now, we'll warn you, there's some caveats to that. So you want to make sure that either talk to us or do some research on it before you do that. But that's one of the other differences. And this really comes into play for a little bit larger companies that have very specific needs. And we built this obviously as a need or because of a need from one of our customers. So the last thing in here is, if we go back in, you can see the statistics at the top, and that what this helps you understand is where your counts are at. But in addition to that, we do automatic list cleaning for you. So what I mean by that is, people hard bounce, or if they soft bounce too many times, then we're going to mark those people as undeliverable. If they report you as spam, then we're going to mark those people as reported spam. Once that happens, they get pulled out of your active and you're not charged for those people anymore. So your contact count is based on active only. So if you're using double opt-in and they're sitting in a pending status because they haven't clicked the confirmation link in their email, then they're going to stay in pending and you don't get charged for them. So you only get charged for active. So that's one of the big differences with what we do. So,
Yeah.
So then let's see, we can go on from there. And one of the other differences we have, actually, Derek, I'm going to let you go over this with this. Do you have a screen ready?
Yeah. Yep.
Or you want? Okay. So let's try this and switch screens on you. And there we go.
All right. Yeah. So another thing that we have that's unique to us is we have something called data formatters. So a lot of people, they have a data file that they import into Tarvent for all their contact details. And most of the time, that data isn't formatted in the way that you'd want it to display in the email. For example, you might import a first name and it might be in all capital letters, or you might import it might be all lowercase letters. But either way, it's not the format you'd like to display within the email. So we have these things called data formatters. So what a data formatter does, so I'll just go in here and act like I'm adding a data field in, or a merge tag in. So if you click this merge tag button, then you'll see the options to select which merge tag. I'll use first name for this example. All right, so here I selected the data location. So that's where the data is being pulled from. And then here's the data field that I want to insert into the email. And optionally, you can provide a default value. So a default value is if their first name's blank, then show this instead. So we could put friend, for example. And then below that is where you can set up a data formatter. So in here, we have several options. So you can make that first name lowercase, you can make it uppercase, title case, and so on. Even if you have a really long value, for example, and you want to truncate it to a certain amount of characters, we also allow you to do that in here. So for this example, I'll just use title case. So when you apply the title case data formatter to your first name, we give you an example of what it will look like. So it'll take that string or take those characters and it'll capitalize the first letter of each word. So data formatters just help you when you need to format your data to make it look better. And it prevents the hassle of needing to take your data file, reformat it all before importing it into Tarvent, because that just takes a lot of time. So these data formatters can save you a bunch of time when getting your email put together.
Yeah, especially on like importing from other systems, you might have all of your data in capital or all of your data in lowercase, and then trying to put it into an email and having it show up all capital. At least the agencies that we've worked with in the past, they go nuts over that. They want it to be perfect. And so that's one of the things with these formatters is you could do the title case and make sure that no matter what format the data comes in, you can make it look exactly how you want to. So there's one other cool thing in here that it's an advanced feature. Sorry to butt in, Derek, but so there's another thing in here on that advanced feature. So this comes into play when you're sending emails in multiple languages. So one of our more enterprise customers, they send out emails in about 40 some languages. And so with that, you can do the data formatter, but you can use the data formatter based on the culture of the email. Or you can override that. And for this particular customer, and we don't exactly understand why, but they were sending an email to recipients in Hong Kong, and they wanted to show the email in one language, but they wanted the currency for the values that they were putting in. They wanted that to be in US dollars. So to do that, they used data formatters, and they formatted they had a data type of number. I think it was a number, but anyway, they used the data formatters and they specified, we want this US based. And so it knew our system knows how to take that data and show it for US or for any other language, whether it be right to left language or left to right. it all is supported with that. So it's an advanced feature, but I wanted to bring it up because it is something that is, if you need it, it's extremely important and very hard to find. If you don't need it, you don't care, and we understand that. But for those that do need it, just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
So back to you, Derek.
Yeah. So that kind of summarizes what data formatters do. And like Jason mentioned, this applies to string data fields, like first name applies to number data fields, currency data fields, and even date data fields. We give you a bunch of different date formats that you can display the date in, just once again to speed up your marketing flow. So you don't have to keep going back to your data file, reformatting and re-importing. We handle it all when the email is sent. So on top of that, I just wanted to go into journeys as well to show you a unique feature that we offer. Jason kind of touched on this a little earlier, but it's this contact criteria. So in other platforms that have automations, if you want to say, if a contact has this tag, do this. If the contact doesn't have this tag, then do this. Normally you'd need to put in a decision split. What in our system it's called a decision split. In a lot of other systems, it's an if-else split. But you'd have to put in a split to handle that scenario. Where in our system, if you want to send an email to only the people that have the tag, I don't know, let's just say the tag blue. So just for simplicity. So you only want to send the email to the contacts that have the tag blue. So you, instead of putting in a decision split to say if they have blue, go on this path, if they don't, go on this path, you can add in a condition in contact criteria. So how you do that is you just select this second radio button, and then you'd edit the criteria. And so then in here, you guys have already seen the screen before, so it's very similar to our segmentation. So in here, you'd select what that criteria would be. So in this case, we could just select tags, contains, and then we'll just put contractor. So now that I put this rule in, that email will only be sent to the people, only be sent to the contacts that have the contractor tag. All the contacts that do not have the contractor tag will simply skip that step and move on to the next one. So this just allows you to have a journey that has one line straight down with a bunch of conditional rules in there without having to have all these nested splits that make your journey look ultra confusing. So that's one thing that it sets us apart that will definitely save you a lot of time and a lot of headache when viewing your journey. And then another part that,
yeah. Oh, my bad. I thought you were, yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Joys of the first webinar.
Yeah, we're figuring it out. So yeah, and then Jason also touched on the quick navigation, but he was showing you like how to go through the different emails in a journey. But we also have quick navigation at the just general item level. So if you go into here, you can see, oh, I was just on this campaign, so I can easily click on this to go back to that campaign. And another nice thing we have, since we do support multiple audiences, is that every time you're in an item that's associated with an audience, we show you in the quick nav what audience that's associated with. So again, it's just to make your life easier. You don't have to remember as much because we just have it in here for you. But it's easy if, I do this all the time. If I need to test something and I'm in a journey and I need to update a contact's profile to match what I'm testing, then I always use this quick nav to go back to that audience, update the profile, and then I'll use the quick nav again to get right back into this journey. So this is just something we added to make your life a lot easier. And it's again, makes it logical. So if you need to navigate to somewhere, we have it right there for you. You don't need to search around for it. And then, yeah, another thing that we really try to do is to make ourselves different is integrate our email API. Jason touched on what the email API is. It's for sending out those transaction emails, the password reset, just other account reminders, whatever else. But what sets us apart is that it's directly integrated with our marketing platform. And the main reason that's a big deal is because you can use templates. Let me close this quick. So you can use a template for your transaction. And in this template, you can put in what's called transaction variables to make that email completely dynamic based on what you pass into our API. So with a lot of systems, they'll have an email API, but it's kind of a separate product. It's something you have to manage separately from all your other marketing efforts, where we integrated it with the intention of you being able to reuse your templates for it. You could reuse templates for a campaign and a transactional email. And it's just something that you don't need to deal with another tool. It's all within the same tool. It's managed in the same area. And you have a drag and drop editor to edit those emails instead of having to come up with your HTML code for your email, your transactional emails. So that's definitely something that sets us apart. But,
I was just gonna interrupt here only because when we deal with our agency customers, and we also deal with more of the enterprise, you have like marketing department that creates the look of the email, and then you have developers that get everything wired up and running. And so doing this with these templates allows the marketing department to make changes to the email whenever they want. They don't need the developer to make changes to what the email looks like. Now, if you need more data points added or those transaction variables, the developer is going to need to do that. But once that's established, then the developer can focus on pushing that data and creating the transactions. But marketing or designers or what have you can go into the template, make all the changes in the world, and as soon as they make that change is live. So it's a huge time saver because you don't have to rely on the developer to get that stuff done.
Yeah.
So that my 2 cents just from our past with more of the enterprise customers, but it's a huge bonus.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. And just one last thing on this email API integration is we have this thing called, I won't spend a lot of time on this just so you guys know what's available. We have an API call builder, and the whole intention of this API call builder is to build out the call to use our email API. So there's a lot of settings in here because there's a lot of things you can do within the email API. But I just thought I'd bring this to your guys' attention so you guys know that if you need to build out a call to send out a transactional email, you can use this API call builder to get a head start. And we generate the code in a bunch of different languages. So yeah, just one thing to note when looking into the email API.
Yeah, less work for the developer, especially because most developers want to just start coding. They don't want to read. So this is a really good way to just get them going. And if you notice all the little triangles all over the place, we give a lot of hints on what everything is about, and a lot of technical details, but this just helps the developer get things going. And it's all on one page. And the cool thing is how we built this is it has every single feature that's available on a transactional email. It's not like it just gives you the basics and that's it. That gets annoying, especially as a developer. I know because we're both developers, so we know the life of a developer. So the API call builder for transactions is super nice, but
yeah, overwhelming, but in a good way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
So then the last thing I guess I wanted to bring up for what kind of sets us apart and stuff that we have that's different than our competitors is we have live testing for personalization. So you can preview your email before it's sent using data from a contact. So like this contact's first name is Dave, for example. So if I update the preview, so where you're seeing customers where we have that merge tag, and if you remember back, the default value customer was used here. So it's showing the default value because there's no value for that merge tag right now. But if I update the preview using this contact, Dave, then you'll see it updates that first name to the contact's first name. So again, this is just to make it so you don't have to keep on sending tests to yourself and waiting for those tests to show up. You can test it right within Tarvent in the preview tool. And this also applies for conditional content. So like if you have this button and you say only show it to people who has the contractor tag, then in this preview, it will update it. So if he has the contractor tag, it'll show it. And if not, it won't. So just another way to speed up your process. And another thing that makes your marketing flow a whole lot easier is just this live preview and the ability to go through your contacts and update it per contact. Or you can even put in custom values just to test it out. So
yeah, this actually came from one of our customers a while back. They're no longer with us. They didn't go under, they just moved on. But anyway, so that customer had like 800 and I think it was like 830 something variations of an email based on what region of the country and grass type and several other things. And so because of that, that's where we came up with a solution. So, and it ended up, it was extremely beneficial for them because they can test all the variations without, like you said, sending all the emails. But then on top of that, we started seeing more and more people find this extremely valuable because they didn't have to send an email. They could just check it right in the solution. And the other cool thing is that, when you're doing this and you send out a test, if you have a test group with all the different profile variations that you need to send to see all the emails, you can send that. You can send the email to the test group and have it all go to a single email address, but you could see it with all the different profiles. So if you had 10 different variations, you could have 10 different contacts with all the different profile fields needed for those 10 variations, but then send all those email copies to yourself. So lots and lots of cool testing features that you can do in here. So, all right. Well, then on that, I want to switch back over. If you don't mind, Derek, to stealing your screen. So next thing that makes us a little bit different, actually a lot of bit different, and this comes back from our agency days, working so much with our agency back in the day, and we still do now. So, but this is where it originated from, is that our agencies always wanted every customer touch point to be customizable. So no matter what you're working on, if a customer sees something, either from an email, they click a link and it goes out to a page, we needed to be able to allow them to customize every single thing in the system. So I'm just going to go to like a unsubscribe form. So just so you can kind of see. So in an unsubscribe form, this is what you typically see. You'll have just kind of the basics in here. But with us, you can add whatever you want. So if I want, I can add content above, below. I can add and do whatever I want to make this look like a full-blown web page that looks just like your brand. So whether I'm in an unsubscribe or a forward to a friend form, any number of different forms that you have, all the forms, all the surveys, every page that we would host, you're able to control that. And then also with forms, obviously for like sign up, you can embed those forms in your website, so you can do that sort of thing with the embed. And we have 4 different options that you can choose from. So some people like it to be styled and use our styling. Some people like it where they don't want to link to us, especially the larger customers. They don't want to link to us because of security reasons. So we just give them the unlinked version. And then if they want no styling from us whatsoever, I wanted to call this naked, but some people get offended, so we went with basic instead. But it's just the basic form with 0 styling. So that way you can have full control when you embed it. But the point of this is that a lot of our competitors, they'll have unsubscribe, they'll have profile update forms, they have all these different forms that you can go to. Problem is you can't customize them to look like your brand. You may be able to put a logo, but that's about it. So with ours, you can customize everything that's in there. So last thing, we've been talking about a lot of differences between us and our competitors, but one of the other things that I want to show you, this just gives you some insight into us, and this is again part of what makes us different. We're really transparent. So it annoys me when you go to a company and they give you some answer that's extremely vague. It's probably their fault that whatever happened, or maybe it is your fault. Who knows? But you want some detail, and I can't stand that people don't give detail. It's like just be honest. And so I have some very personal reasons, not because of anything I did, but it has some very personal reasons as to why I am so brutally honest. But I am, and I'm very I'm honest in everything that we do. We're always that way, but we're also very transparent. So what I'm showing you right now is our happiness report. So I won't go through all these, and I probably should blank some of these this information out. I kind of forgot to do that, so I apologize to those people. But they gave good feedback. So this is 96% of our support tickets. They rate them as great. Two of them were okay, or 2%, and 2% were not good. We talked to those people. They're, we've told them not to ever do that again. But no, actually, it is really low. But the point of this is that we provide really good support. We're really fast at what we do. A lot of that is thanks to Derek with the thoroughness of his answers. But from my perspective, I just wanted to be extremely transparent because that is just kind of how we operate. The other thing is if I go back into here, we touched on this a little bit, but if we go back in our what's new, we show big things, small things, and kind of everything in the middle. We really want you guys to know what's going on, so we will update this on a pretty regular basis and let you know what we're dealing with. So that's just another thing that we have. The last thing on this. If we're ever down, I hate to ever admit that we're down, but you know what? It happens from time to time. It doesn't matter what size company you are, you run into issues. If we're down, you're going to get an email from us once we're back up. If we're down, I guarantee you can be guaranteed that we're sweating it pretty hard, pretty stressed out, trying to get things back up and running. So it's kind of an all hands thing to get everything running. I appreciate the support tickets letting us know that we're down, but I can tell you that we usually know about 99% of the time we know we're down well before you guys do. But we're working hard to get things back up. Maybe we're always up, and there's something that happened with a campaign, or who knows. But if there is something that happens, you're going to get an email from us, and that email is going to have 3 different things always. The 3 different things are what happened, what do we do to fix it, and then what do we do to make sure it never happens again. So those 3 questions we always answer. Again, it's that transparency that's important, because while we're a company, we are people, and we make mistakes, and we're going to overcome those mistakes. And then when we tell you what happened, we're not going to give you a vague answer that you really don't understand what it is. We're going to give you detail. Sometimes we don't give as much detail as we want because it's super technical, and we'd have to explain a lot of our back-end system for you to have the context to understand it. So we're not going to do that, but we're going to be as detailed as we can and still keep it at an understandable level to somebody that's not technical. Because it's just really, really important to us that we do that. So, and now that we've kind of gone over, what our differences are, I mean, there's so many things in here that are different between us and some of our competitors. Integrations. A lot of people ask us about integrations, and we want to have 1 million more integrations than we have right now. We're a small company, we're growing, and we're building things as fast as we possibly can. And with that, our initial goal was to build integrations with third parties. So we wanted to make sure that those third-party integrations, they're there because, like Zapier, they integrate with like 1,800 or more different applications that are out there. So if we integrate with Zapier, well, then that allows you to integrate with everybody else. Now we know that doing that, there's also a cost to you because you have to pay for Zapier. Same thing with Make and Albato and the rest of these other integrations. So we're aware of that. We know that that's there. We're going to be building native integrations, and that's what we're working on now. We've got so many of these, and what's cool is that we didn't build all these. So we built Zapier, we built Make, but then there are companies like Albato and Integrately and Pably that they contacted us because of our users that were asking them, and they built those integrations. So for us, we thought that was pretty cool that other people were putting in the work at no cost to us and building those integrations out. But now we're starting to build native integrations. So you're going to start seeing native integrations come out. The benefit of native integrations is that you don't have to pay anything extra, as long as the application that you're working with, maybe it's WordPress. So with WordPress, we'll build integrations for that. So now you don't have to use Zapier and pay for Zaps. You'll just have that native integration. That's the benefit. The downside is that some of those APIs, when they upgrade, we have to make sure that we can upgrade just as fast. So it's more pressure on us. So that might take away from our time building other things. So again, being brutally honest here, but that's why integrations are where they're at, and we are officially starting to add more native integrations. So that's one of the things that we're working on now. So with that, the integrations that we're going to be working on, and we're going to be first things first is CRM integration. So integrations to like HubSpot and Zoho and Salesforce and many other different integrations. We're going to be building those out. That's going to be one of the first things we do. We're also going to build inbound webhooks. So that way, even if we don't have an integration, as long as your application supports webhooks, outbound webhooks, then our inbound webhooks will be able to take in that data. So in addition to that, we kind of went over audiences, and I showed you how you can go into an audience. You can pick it, see the custom information. You can see their activity for today, and filter that if you need to. You can go into their activity and groups. So we have some CRM type features. I hesitate to call them CRM because I know a CRM system, if we were to say, hey, we have CRM, you're going to expect more of a sales type CRM with pipelines and with some workflow in there and deals and a little bit more organization than what we offer right now at just the contact level. So I hesitate to say CRM because I don't want to oversell something that we have, but we are going to be adding some additional CRM features. We're going to be adding e-commerce specific features. We're not going to do like some of our competitors do, where they replace your e-commerce dashboard with the dashboard within our system. We're a marketing company. We're going to focus on marketing, but we're going to build a lot of CRM or e-commerce integration features that are going to be useful for email. More training videos. That's going to be the next, another thing that we do. This webinar is one of them, but we're going to start doing webinars on well, I'll get into that more, but we're going to start doing more regular webinars, but more training videos. We know that people don't like to read. I know my kids definitely don't. So, people don't like to read as much. And so we're going to be doing a lot more training videos. We're going to work on our help system to get more into the help system, but most of the time people rather watch videos, and that's kind of what we're going to do. Our goal is to have 100% of our functionality in video. So you can go over that. And like I said, kind of more-ish help docs throughout our help system. Really want to, I think our help system is probably going to turn into more of a strategy type help system on just different strategies you can use and how you use our system for that. Not how do you add a contact. If that's not intuitive in our system, please let us know, because that's an absolute bust on our side. Hopefully, just to click the plus sign, but it was just a subtle hint. But based on that, that's kind of where we're going. So with that, we kind of open this up to questions, and we see that there's some questions that have come in. So we kind of want to go over some of those questions and answer those. One of the questions that came up and has come up many times before is, do we own our own mail servers? I know you can use other different mail servers out there. Maybe I'm a control freak. I don't know. But I don't like to rely on third-party products if at all possible, especially if it's a service like that. So yes, we own our own mail servers. We manage everything ourselves. We have lots and lots of monitoring and automation to help with that, because we want to stay small as long as we can as far as the number of employees. We don't want to grow. The size of our company shouldn't be based on how many employees we have, but based on how many customers we have. And by the way, we're in 88 countries today, and we're continuing to grow that. So we're pretty excited about that. So we own our own mail servers. Contacts, how do contacts affect our account? That's one of the things. Do unsubscribe and pending. I kind of went over that before, but yeah, the unsubscribes don't count. The only thing that counts towards your contact count is the active. So that number is it. Other people ask, let me see this other question. So what happens if you go over your contact limit? Great question. So I go into here and I go into my plan, on this demo account, one of the things I can do is I can allow additional contacts. So if there's additional contacts, fees will apply. We're going to charge you a little bit extra for each of those contacts. But with that, we're going to let you know what that cost is on an ongoing basis, because what we don't want is surprises. So we don't want to surprise you at the end of the month and you all of a sudden get a big bill that you can't afford. We're going to let you know well beforehand. So the other one, I'll answer this next one, Derek, and then I'll let you answer some of these. But see, is there a limit to how many emails you could send per month to your contacts? Good question. So no, you can send out to your contacts as much as you want. I will tell you, though, that if you get a lot of spam complaints because you're sending too many, then we might have to have a conversation. But we let you send out as many emails as you want. We know most of our competitors, I think, are between 12 and 15 emails per month per contact is kind of the limit that they do. We just say unlimited because it's up to you. And again, if you're getting a lot of spam reports, we're going to have that little sit down conversation, virtual sit down, but we'll have to have that sit down conversation and talk about that and see what we can do to remedy that. I guess that does bring up one other point. We don't automatically suspend your account. We don't do that. So if we see a problem, we're going to reach out. Typically Derek will. We're going to reach out and let you know, hey, we're seeing a bunch of spam complaints. What's going on? What can we do to fix this? If we don't hear from you in a 24-hour period, we're going to have to suspend your account until we hear from you and get things addressed. But if we hear from you and we're working together, we're going to keep that account active. We need to protect our IP reputation at all costs, because our IPs that are sending out affect all of our customers. So just like you would want us to be, very strict with other customers, we have to be strict with you as well. We just don't do what our other competitors do, where they just automatically suspend your account and you had no idea that it was coming. So
yeah,
with that, I'll let you talk, Derek.
All right. Yeah. And on that suspension thing, just one thing I want to bring up, because I frequently go into the email marketing subreddit just to check out how people are doing. And you won't have to deal with the nightmare of your account being suspended and not hearing from us. So, because that's something that I've seen with a lot of our competitors, that they'll suspend your account and then they'll just never follow up. So you're kind of just out of luck at that point. If we suspend your account, we'll be very sensitive to your responses and we'll respond to them as soon as possible. I just want to make sure you guys know that if a suspension were to happen, hopefully not, we will respond. We won't just suspend it and stop responding, because we know that your business is important and we're going to treat it as such.
That's a good point.
So yeah. And then just following down the questions that we've got. So here's a question. Do I need a login for each account if I have multiple accounts? So Jason kind of touched on this earlier, but you can switch your accounts right within Tarvent without having to log in to a separate account. So I don't know if you want to go to that switch account screen.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I have some interesting accounts in here. Gosh, if I can use my mouse correctly, then
yeah. So in here, this is just showing the list of accounts. So you can create multiple accounts under the same user, and you don't have a separate login URL, because that's something we've seen too, is each account has this unique URL. So it's a nightmare trying to remember what URL you need to go to log into your account. You don't need to deal with any of that. It's all within your same user. So it's just a matter of 2 clicks to switch accounts, and that's it. And it's as easy as that. So following down the questions, do you have security features to limit what some users can see or have access to? The answer is yes. So in an account, you can set up what's called a role, user role. So that basically sets up.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll go into this one. There's a lot more.
Going too quick. Yeah. So in here, you can set up a role. So let's say you only want someone to have access to the reports of your system. Let's say it's someone high up in your company. They just want to see the results. So you can set up a role within Tarvent to say they can only see reports. They can't create campaigns. They can't edit campaigns. They can't do the same thing with journeys. They can only see the reports for that item. So that's just a generic example, but based on the list that Jason was showing, there is a lot of permissions that you can control with those user roles. So yeah, just to answer the question, yes, you can control what users have access to using the roles within your account. So following on to the next question, do you offer dedicated IPs? So yes, we do offer dedicated IPs at an additional cost per month. And dedicated IPs are good if you want to really control your deliverability, because the difference between a dedicated IP and being in a shared IP pool is that with a dedicated IP, you're the only one sending through that IP. So you won't be affected by anybody else's sending. So if another customer is sending to a lower quality list and causing some reputation issues, if you're on a dedicated IP, that won't happen. But I do want to note that even if you're on a shared IP, we maintain those IPs really well. And we have a tiered system. So if we have low quality senders, those senders aren't sending out on the same stuff that higher quality senders are sending out. But if you really want to control your deliverability and just know that it's only you affecting that reputation, then yes, we do offer dedicated IPs at an additional cost. And then following down the list, what's the difference between email API and campaigns? When are email API credits used? So we kind of reviewed this earlier. So the email API is for transactional emails. So for those password reset emails, for those account changes emails, for password reminder emails, just any email that's controlled by a contact's behavior, that's kind of just operations. Where a campaign is for marketing, for newsletters, something that you're sending to try to get a customer to do something. But a transactional is based on their behavior. And so email API credits are only used when you're using our API. So if campaigns, journey emails, those emails have nothing to do with email API credits. It's only if you're using or directly hitting our API or using one of those third-party integrations like Zapier to send a transactional email. Because in Zapier we have an action to send a transactional email, and that will use your email API credits.
All right, the last one, I'll just take this on, and that's about an affiliate program. Do we have a referral or affiliate program? The answer is yes. So we do have that, and I just pulled up the screen. So we have a video that talks about that. Otherwise, you can do some little bit of reading here, but we just have a tiered program. So it's all based on, we'll start at 20% commission based on your monthly recurring revenue. But that's where you start out. It's 20%, and you get that for the life of the account. It's not for the first year. It's not for the first 6 months. It's for the life of the account that you sign up. Then you get to the builder tier. That, again, once your MRR or your monthly recurring revenue from your accounts. So once we're billing out about $500 a month, then you're going to move up to 25% commission. And then once you go up to the powerhouse tier at $1,500 a month. So once we're billing out $1,500 a month, you're going to be making 30% commission. Now, if there's accounts that cancel and you go, you might go down a tier, you might go up tiers. So, it really kind of depends. But based on these tiers, you can earn anywhere from 20 to 30% commission. And how you start up is you just apply. So you can apply within in our system. If you don't want to run an account with us, I would ask why not. But anyway, if you don't want to run an account with us, you can easily just start up a trial. It's free. We don't ask for any credit card information. But in a trial, you can go ahead and apply. And then the other thing that we do offer is for all of our affiliates, if you want it, we'll give you a sandbox account. So that sandbox account is a real account. It has some limitations as far as how many emails you could send out and how many contacts you can have in there. But the point of the sandbox account is that you have all the features available to you. So you could do demos and whatnot to produce content for your audience to try to get them to sign up with Tarvent. So we do offer that. The other thing we offer is the referral program. I don't know why my mouse is doing this, but on the referral, so that's just another thing. You can get a link, and then we'll just, for everybody that signs up, we'll send you a $50 Amazon gift card. So those are two different options that you have, but we do have those options. So with that, kind of come to a close on what we wanted to talk about today. Went a little bit longer than we planned, but hopefully there's a lot of information here that gives you, in a nutshell, who Tarvent is, what we're about, why we're different than pretty much everybody else out there. We definitely don't have every feature that everybody else has, but we're getting there. So we're adding more and more features all the time. We didn't touch on things like landing pages and surveys, but we have a lot of that stuff built in. Same thing with reports. We just have a whole lot of stuff that's built into our system that we didn't really go over. But we invite you, especially if you're on YouTube, to like this video, subscribe so you get notified. We are also going to be sending out emails. But the main takeaway that we hope you have is that Tarvent is definitely a very different type of company and a different type of platform that makes email marketing a lot easier. And you know that we've got your back as far as making sure that you have what you need to be successful. Once you log in, you'll have access to these links down here. So just want to point that out. You'll be able to see us on YouTube and Twitter, or X now, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. So we're on all the social media, LinkedIn as well. So you'll be able to get to us there. Otherwise, within here, you can go into our help, and we've got a whole bunch of things that you can access through there. As far as upcoming webinars, what we plan to do is have a webinar every Tuesday. I know today's Wednesday, but we plan to have a webinar every Tuesday, and they're going to be more Q&A style webinars. So we really want to answer your guys' questions, talk about things that we might have going on. It probably won't be both Derek and I on, might just be one of us. We'll see. But, we hope we get feedback from you. Hope it's honest feedback. We take criticism just as well as we take compliments. So please let us know. If I said too many times and you counted, please let me know what that count is. And otherwise, we hope to hear from you, but we're going to start doing these webinars on a weekly basis so we can give you guys a time where you can hear from us, answer questions or ask questions, and we can provide answers that hopefully everybody will benefit from. We don't want this to be a support channel where you ask us specific questions about your account. But if you're talking about strategy and that sort of thing, we'd love to hear your question and we can answer that. So with that, I hope this has been beneficial to all of you guys. It's been enlightening for us, and we're going to get better at this as time goes on. We don't even have any fancy open or close intros and outro videos yet, but we're getting there. So with that, we hope you guys appreciate this. We definitely had fun getting ready for it, and we're just going to continue from here. So we hope to see you in Tarvent and hopefully in support, telling us to have a great weekend. So talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.